Well, welcome folks here at the course in Oeiras, Portugal for the 2021 World Rowing Beach Sprint Finals. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what it's like to be here and do a little bit of a show and tell tour. So we're standing right here on the start line now. This is where the two athletes line up, the runners for each boat. That in the solo is the athlete themselves, and for the bigger boat it could be the stroke person or the coxswain for the quads. They line up here, the buzzer goes and they go careering down the course here, where a series of boat handlers hold their boats steady in the breakers when it's a little bit choppier than it is now, and then they get going down the course. They do the slalom through two buoys, out then around a far buoy where they do a hairpin bend, and then straight back to the beach. When they get to the beach, each lane has to run the runner, who's usually the bow in the quad or the bow in the double, and then the athlete themselves in the solo, leap out, run around their flag, come sprinting up this way and diving for this. This is what they're looking out for. This is the buzzer they've got to hit in the sand. Everything comes down to this because it stops the clock. We've seen some amazingly close finishes, and we've seen people miss the buzzer and add 2 to 3 seconds to their time as they scrabble around trying to hit it. It's currently high tide at the moment here in Oeiras, but when it's low tide, which we've seen for most of the day, the breakers are actually a lot further out. So that sprint up to this buzzer is quite a distance to cover. So that's the course. Let's have a look at where they get themselves ready. Around here, we've got the big screen where everybody's been tracking the racing so far. The graphics go up, everybody knows the results. And then just behind that, in the shadow of the Fort de São Julião de Barra, we've got the boat park area where everybody gets themselves ready. It's absolutely beautiful here. The athletes from all over the world have been getting themselves prepped for all of the racing that's to come in both the open elite level and the junior categories. So this area is where the athletes get themselves ready. You can see over here there are some ergos because it's so important to warm up and warm down. So those have been a hive of activity, everybody getting themselves ready for racing. And then over on this side, the boat park. This is where athletes are preparing their blades for racing with their national colours on and making sure that they're happy with the boat setup that they'll be competing in. So for those of you who haven't seen a coastal boat before, we thought we'd quickly walk you through one of the quads that we've got here. First, to point out, on the front of these boats, we've got specific design of the bow. This is called a wave piercing bow, which is slightly pointed going down to allow the boat to pierce through the waves. Causes a couple of tricky moments when it comes to landing the boat on the beach, because they can dig into the sand. So there's some tense moments as these bigger boats certainly coming towards the beach, which has a varied impact depending on the time of day and whether the tide's up or down. Moving down the boat, as you'd expect to see, 4 sculling positions lined up, riggers slightly to the side rather than over the boat. So that's how they're positioned. Relatively easy to put your feet in and out of these rubberized shoes. So that's nice and easy for the athletes to do, because as you're leaping in, you want that to be pretty straightforward. So it doesn't have to be a perfect fit, but you need the distance to be right. We come towards the coxswain seat, which, as you can see, is a lot bigger than you usually see in a quad or an 8. So relatively straightforward for them to leap in a beach start. We've got a jagger board that they can use, certainly when they're not in the shallower part of the course, that they can handle down here for some straight steering. And then, as you'd expect, a rudder steered with their feet. So these 2 paddles turn the rudder cable, which turns the cable at the back here, so they've got good, clean steering. So that's the lineup on a quad. Slightly different to you'd expect on flat water rowing. A few more trinkets and toys for them to play with, like the jagger board, and it's a bit more spacious. You notice the width of the boat is much wider than people expect. So there's greater stability, but you need it when you're out here on the water. Well folks, I hope you enjoyed our little tour of the course and the boat athlete area. So much still to come. Wherever you're tuning in from all around the world, hope you enjoy the rest of the racing from here in Oeiras, Portugal.